Wonder Murmur, where whispers weave the heart.
Hello, little hearts. A new whisper begins. In a quiet town where the sea breeze carried the scent of salt and adventure, there lived a doctor named Gulliver. But his town had little need for doctors, and his heart was filled with a longing for the unknown. So he took a job on a grand ship, a vessel that would carry him to the far corners of the earth. His new life had begun. For a time the sea was kind, the sun was warm, and the waves were gentle. But one day, a storm of unimaginable fury descended upon them. The waves rose like mountains, and the wind screamed like a beast. The ship, which had seemed so strong, groaned and splintered. Gulliver and a few other sailors managed to get into a small rowing boat, but the sea swallowed their ship whole, leaving them alone on a vast grey ocean. The rowing boat, tossed and battered by the waves, could not hold on forever. A great wave, a giant fist of water, crashed over them, and Gulliver was thrown into the churning sea. He swam for hours, his body aching, his lungs burning, a desperate struggle to stay alive. The endless ocean felt like a great cold hand pulling him down. Finally, after what felt like a lifetime, the current, a strange and powerful force, pushed him toward a shore. He crawled onto the soft, cool sand, his body so exhausted he could not even think. He collapsed right there, his last thought a quiet prayer for rest. When he woke up, the sun was bright and warm on his face, but a strange sensation came over him. He could not move. He was tied down from head to toe by 1,000 tiny ropes, each one no bigger than a piece of thread. He looked around in amazement and saw hundreds of tiny people, no bigger than his hand, swarming around him. They were armed with tiny bows and arrows, and their faces were filled with a mixture of fear and wonder. "Please stop!" Gulliver cried. His voice a great booming sound that made the little people scatter in a panic. "I won't hurt you, I promise." But the little people, terrified by the giant in their midst, fired a volley of tiny arrows at him. The arrows felt like 1,000 pinpricks, and Gulliver, though annoyed, simply decided to wait. He would not hurt them. They were just too afraid. After a few days, the little people, now confident that the giant meant them no harm, began to feed him and give him water. They built a magnificent cart. With 1,000 tiny horses, they pulled him all the way to their town, Lilliput. The town was a perfect tiny world of colourful houses and winding streets. They gave him a great big building to live in. But even so, Gulliver had to crawl to get inside. He learned their language and promised to be a friend to them. He signed a document that had 1,000 tiny rules, and with that, he began his life in Lilliput. He helped them rebuild their broken buildings, and he used a bucket as a watering can to water their gardens. The Lilliputians, who had been so afraid, now loved their great, kind giant. But a great fear had settled over the town. The neighboring kingdom, a country they called the enemy, was preparing for war. They had a great navy, and they planned to invade Lilliput. Gulliver, seeing the terror in the eyes of the little people, went to the king of Lilliput. "Your Highness," he said, his voice a gentle rumble, "I want to help. I can win this war for you." The king, though a bit skeptical, agreed. "What is your plan, Gulliver?" Gulliver, with a mischievous twinkle in his eye, asked the Lilliputians to bring him all the rope and wire they could find. He braided the thin threads together until he had a single long strong rope. That night, under the cover of darkness, he swam to the enemy port. He tied all their ships together, and with a mighty tug, he pulled them all the way back to Lilliput's shore. The Lilliputians, who had been so afraid, now cheered. Their enemy's navy was captured, and they had won the war. Gulliver was a hero. The king rewarded him with a feast and his undying gratitude. But Gulliver's fame had a dark side. The king's advisors, a group of small, bitter men, grew jealous of his influence. They whispered to the king, their voices like tiny hissing snakes. "Your Highness, Gulliver is too strong. He is a threat. We believe he is plotting to take over the kingdom." The king, a weak and easily swayed man, believed their lies. He looked at Gulliver, his great, kind hero, and now he only saw a threat. He signed a terrible order. Gulliver was to be blinded and exiled from the city. His food and water would be cut off until he left. A little worker in the castle, a man who loved Gulliver for his kindness, ran to him in a panic. "You must go, sir. The king has ordered that you be blinded. His mind is poisoned by the advisor's lies." Gulliver's heart, which had been so full of loyalty and love for the Lilliputians, broke. He had given them his strength, his friendship, and his courage, and they had repaid him with betrayal. He knew he had to leave. He crept out of Lilliput under the cover of night, taking the enemy ships with him. He swam to the enemy's island, and when he arrived, he was surprised to be met with kindness. The king, a wise and forgiving man, saw that Gulliver had brought back their ships, and that he meant no harm. Gulliver, in his new home, reflected on all that had happened. He had been a hero to one kingdom and a villain to another, all because of his size. He had been loved, and he had been betrayed. But here, with the people he was told to hate, he found a compassion he had not known before. One day, as he was walking along the shore, he saw it. A small, wooden rowing boat, washed up on the beach. It was his boat, the one that had been lost in the storm. It was a sign that it was time to go home. The king and his people, who had welcomed him as a friend, helped him repair his boat. Gulliver thanked them, his heart filled with a deep sense of gratitude. He knew that kindness could be found in the most unexpected of places. He set sail on the vast blue ocean, his small boat a fragile thing against the endless waves. He felt a mix of joy and anxiety. What adventures lay ahead? He had seen the world from two perspectives, as a giant and as a friend. And he had learned that in the end, it is not your size or your strength that matters. It is the kindness you show to others and the courage you show in the face of betrayal that truly defines you. And with that, he sailed on, a hero of his own story.
Wonder murmur, the story departs, yet the whisper imparts.